One of the best ways to learn how to become a better designer is actually seeing other people get feedback on their work so that you can understand what they did that is not really working so that you can avoid these mistakes yourself on the next design that you're doing. So yesterday, we just released a new web design course, the $10,000 website process. And as part of that course, I'm doing a review of student work to help them improve their web design skills. So I want to take this video from the course and share it with you so that you can see the feedback that I'm giving students, covering a lot of the concepts that we talk about in the course, from strategy to user experience and the visual design as well. I'm pretty sure you'll find this very, very valuable. So stay tuned and enjoy. In this video, I want to review some of the work that you've been sending me. In this video, I'm not going to get to all of it, but I will do more and more reviews as time goes along. But if you want to get immediate review on your work in progress, a best way to do that would be to post your link in our private Facebook group or Slack channel to get immediate review from the other students. And also I'll be picking up links from there to be adding more and more design reviews here to the course. Now, one thing that I do want to mention before I start the reviews is that most of the website that I'm reviewing here were done by the students before they've actually went through this material and applied it. So take this in mind when you're watching this. A lot of times they didn't know the content before, but I will use all of the frameworks that we've discussed along the course, from strategy to the UX, the structure of the website, the storytelling, and also the visual aspect, to kind of give review of how I think those things could be better. So let's get started. The first website that we're going to review is this website by Ethan for a tattoo artist. And this is what we see when we get started. So the first thing that I see is this video, which is actually a high quality, nice shot video, which kind of gives a lot of personality and understanding. So I understand the context of where I am. But on top of that, I'm a little bit confused. Not that confused, but we do have the logo here, so I understand where I am. But when I'm looking for navigation, which is usually, as we said, at the top right corner, it's not there. It appears here. And usually here, I don't know if this is just what happens when I scroll down. It's pretty weird that the navigation is in this place. Because I'm looking for it here and I don't understand where it is. Now, we do have this private studio in New Zealand. And the problem here, and also with the logo, is that they're black, and a lot of the times the background is black as well. And so we don't have much contrast. And a lot of times this actually gets lost. So I don't know if there need to be some kind of an overlay or something, but in terms of readability, sometimes you don't really get to see here, and sometimes it's not really great in terms of visibility. Now, I'm also lacking here some kind of a mission statement, a value proposition, and some kind of a call to action. Because right now, this is like a tattoo. Okay, so it's a studio of tattoo, but what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do now? Do you want me to, why am I here? There's nothing for me to actually do here but scroll. When I scroll down, again, I think this is a bit weird that the navigation is here. I get a little bit of info about him, and there's a button here that says read more, but honestly, I have to be honest, from a design perspective, this doesn't really look like a button. It's too close to looking like this, right? It's a little bit smaller and it's capital, but it does not really look like a button. I might have missed that if I scroll. But let's say when I click now, it actually just expands this a little bit, and then I can collapse this. I wonder why not just put all the information there or navigate to a different place. I don't really understand how it's helpful. If you think this is important to understand who he is, I would just put it out there. But right now, I feel like it's kind of like in between. Like, you didn't make a decision about whether this information is important or not. Now, I initially thought this was a gallery, but it's not. It's a link to their Instagram, which is, I think it's cool to link to their Instagram, but then I also think it would be helpful if you add the link to the Instagram so I know who they are, if I want to follow them, or if I want to see some more, some more of their work or stay in touch. Now here we get to the booking part, where
I might say, oh, so the point of this website is to help me make a booking. So, okay, that should have been a clearer. Now, I don't know if this is the goal, strategic goal of the website to help make booking faster. But if this was, then I would probably need a little bit book or something like that, a little bit more prominent. Now, in terms of booking, though, um, I, this looks like an inquiry form and not really a booking. So if this is really booking, I would expect to maybe choose a date or something like that. But if this is just an inquiry form or we'll get back to you, something like that, then I think this needs to be rephrased a little bit differently because I think that's what it is. Basically, you're sending a form. You're not doing a booking right now. So this is a little bit confusing in terms of how you call this. Now, here's something that I also find confusing. You put here the map, but then you said the address is by request only. So why are you putting the map? And also hours by appointment only. So I actually feel like this is not really helpful. It's like, I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you. So don't tell me. Like email, you've already given me here. So basically this whole thing is just takes me time to look at this, or maybe I'll try to find your address by hacking into the map here. But otherwise, this is really not helping me accomplish anything. I don't get to learn anything here. Besides, I don't want to tell you. So unless this is something of like the brand of like, we don't want to tell you anything, and then I think this should be the concept of the website, and I don't think it is, then this is actually not really helpful. So basically, this is how I think the website can be improved in terms of structure, in terms of the strategy here, and in terms of visual UI. I think I've mentioned all of it. Let's see for a second how this might look on mobile. Let's do inspect here and try it on mobile. Well, it's pretty hard to see, so I don't trust this on mobile. So let's just give it up and not test this on mobile. Let's move on to the next website. The next website is a website designed by Tom for Bective Consulting. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. So this is how it looks when we're landing on it. So let's start with understanding like what the strategy here. So I'm reading this. Bective Consulting, business experts with over 30 years experience in business operations and consulting work with us. So in terms of understanding where I am and what do they do, I think this does do the question, and there is a call to action here. So it does do the work. I feel like it's kind of weird because we have the logo here and then we have the name of the company in big here. So if we already understand where we are, I would probably expect that this would be probably the title, and then maybe you have some expansion because this is not adding any value because we know where we are at this point. Also work with us, by the way, I would expect this to be with some kind of capital letter. It's just weird because all the rest is with capital letters. But let's continue down and see. I like this scroll, but we'll get to the visual design in a second. So we go down here, and then we have what I assume is a little bit more information about them: effective change in all types of organization, and this is the director. And I scroll down who we've worked with. So they have pretty good client base here. So I'm gaining trust, and then get in touch, and then nothing else. Okay, so in terms of content here, it feels pretty short. It feels like I did not get much information about them. And if I click here, I can basically see that there's not much to it besides this. So this, I would somehow look into drilling and elaborating a little bit more about their story, because this kind of feels like too short to be something meaningful. And they do look like, if they have 30 years of experience, I would expect to see something a little bit more here. Also, in terms of structure, I feel like I'm missing some kind of a footer here, which is something that you would expect to see in every website. You get to the end of it, right? So if you don't have the logo at the top, you probably want to end here with a logo. Probably you need to put something like a privacy policy or terms and condition or something like that. So you'd want to add something like that. I feel like that's lacking. Also, in terms of the structure, I'm looking here and there's only basically 3 options here, right? Home is not relevant. I'm already at the home. And this is not even different pages. Okay, it just scrolls here. And if you only have 3 options, I'm wondering, why are you hiding them behind a hamburger menu? This is completely, even though I have to say I really like this little animation here, it's really unnecessary, right? You can just very clearly put three items here, and I'll know exactly what's in this website, and it'll be much easier for me to navigate and consume the content. You really don't need to do this. You don't need to hide them behind this menu. So I feel like this can be changed or improved. It's completely unnecessary. Also, in terms of content, now I see that basically this section should answer the question, what do we do? And by scrolling down immediately, I could not understand this. I thought, because I see a picture here and a little bit of information, and I thought this is kind of like about us and not really what you do. So I would think about how can you break down maybe their services or their offer or something like that into something digestible, like 3 columns or with 3 icons or illustration or something like that with 3, I'm just saying 3, but obviously it can be 7 or whatever, of their offering and of their services, that it will be easy to digest. Because as I said, people hate reading on the web. I'm not going to sit down and read this. But if there were like 3 titles here about the offering of this company, about actually what do they do, say that in like 3 words that I can digest very quickly and understand, because right now I don't understand this. So this was in terms of content and structure. Let's talk about the visual side of it. So I think in terms of color and look and feel here, it's very nice. I mean, it's business, B2B consulting, blue, purplish. It's nice. In terms of the layout here, if you remember what we've discussed about kind of like the layout and doing something big and something medium and something small, everything here is kind of medium. Like this is medium, this whole thing, and this is medium also. So there's no clear hierarchy. Obviously this is bigger than this, but I look at the whole thing like, where do I look at first? So this is like 1, 2, 3, but this is also something is competing. So it's not very obvious where my eye should go. There is no like big element that I should go to first and then second. So I feel like the layout can be more, you can do a better layout here if you put something very, very clear hierarchies as to where I need to read this. I do like this scroll interaction. It's fun. It's fun to go up and down. It's delightful, as they say. What I also think, and by the way, it does bother me, and I've mentioned this before, and I will do again, that there's no capital letters here. There's no capital letters here. I mean, there are capital letters here, but there's no consistency. And lack of consistency, for me, it's lack of quality or attention. So it's a problem. When it comes down here, to the logos, first of all, I think the logos are a little bit too big. So there is no space between them. I mean, I think they can be a little bit smaller and a little bit more coherent in the sizing of them by making some of them a little bit smaller and making the sizing a little bit more coherent. Also, I'm not sure if you can see this on my screen, but I think there's 2 actually shades of gray. This is more like bluish gray, and this is more like a grayish gray. So it's weird that they're not all in the same gray, and I won't open now a Photoshop to check if I'm correct about this, but I have a feeling they're not even in the same shade of gray. So again, it's this attention to details that allows me to say if this is a high quality or not high quality. Again, here, this bothers me. This form, as we've discussed, you probably want to put labels on the top left of every one of them, because once I start putting here information, now I don't know, where the email should be. So you'd want to put labels. That's the best practice above each and every one of them. And other than that, yeah, I think I've mentioned it all. Let's move to the next website. The next website was designed by Mike, and it is for the oceanfront hacienda. So let's see how that looks like. So we're coming here. There's living the dream at the San Clemente Pier, relax, and then obviously there's a booking here. We have the menu here, and then another call to action here. And then we scroll down a little bit, info here. You can see the suites here, and yeah. You can get some testimonials, get some information about the suite, and then the rates. Okay, I think from kind of like strategy and content, I think this is actually good work. I mean, I understand where I am. I understand there's a great value proposition here. There's call to action. So I feel like in terms of structure, the menu, I feel like in terms of just the structure, there's booking here and booking here. You need to add call to action here if you want the call to action to be persistent. But since the menu is not persistent, which by the way, maybe it should be persistent, but if it's not persistent, then really you don't really need two of them on the same page. But if you would make the navigation persistent, then it makes sense to leave the booking here. Now, I feel like in this specific website, most of the feedback that I have here is based on the visual aspects. So let's start with that. So the first thing is this image, which is obviously the main image that it's the first thing that you get when you hear. And this image is, first of all, it's not an ideal image to put text on. There's just a lot of elements on it. Now, if I look here and I look at the other images that you have here, some images are, I feel like, a little bit clearer. This is also an image that's focused on the view. So maybe that's what you wanted to talk about, the view, and rather than the villa itself. But otherwise, maybe I think this gives you a little bit more context about, I don't know, or maybe this one where you see the inside and outside as well. Maybe that is actually a better image. But I feel like this image is not ideal. It's not amazing composition. It's not an amazing visual. Obviously, the text on it, there's a little, you had to put a dark overlay to make the text readable, but it's not ideal. The second thing is the color selection here. So first of all, you have this red thing here, and then you have this red thing here. So they're kind of a little bit competing. And also when I hover this becomes blue. Blue and this red together, bad contrast. It does not look good together. They're not complementary. They're not any kind of color combination that works. So this is not really good. Also, these rooms, when you hover them, they become kind of like greenish blue, which kind of makes them disappear on this blue background. So that's also not an ideal choice of how to make sure that you can see that they're hovered. This is good. This is like, now there's contrast, white and blue. This looks good. Maybe you'd need the exact same thing when you hover, like the button is turning to white with the text on blue. Then also, when you think about kind of like the composition, so there's a lot of things going on here. There's a lot of things in the menu. There's the text here. And also, this does not take 100% of my screen. So I can already see this text, which is, cluttering a little bit of the view. So maybe if you would make sure that the hero section is 100% of my screen, that would kind of at least clear some of the additional information. It'll be easier to digest the content. Now, when I go down here, also one mention about the font choice here. This is, I think this is, let me see what font this is. This is the Playfair display, which I recognize because, by the way, this tool that I just used is called Peep, CSS Peep. I think it's really useful. This font is a free Google font, the Playfair display. And while it's nice, my first initial feeling was like he's using a free font, because I've seen this so many times, and he wants to make this kind of look luxurious or expensive, but he's using a free font, so it looks cheap. So you want to be mindful of what you choose here. And of course, I can say this, but other people, like the clients, they might not be able to say this, but they will feel it in their kind of like in their subconscious, because they do see it a lot. Now here, there's two issues here in terms of both functionality and how this looks. So if this is the suites, I'd want to click here and go into seeing the suite, but only this is clickable. So this is basically just a functional thing, which I think should be the whole thing should be clickable, this whole area, not just this, because this is annoying. I try to click here, nothing happens. In terms of here, I don't really understand, like you have an outline to show, I guess, that this is a button. And then you have also this drop shadow, which I'm not really sure why it's necessary. So it's just adding up visual kind of clutter, and this unnecessary use of drop shadow these days, it kind of makes the website look cheap. So again, don't use this if you don't have to. If you put this within kind of a button type thing, you probably need more padding here. One thing in general that you want to know about things that look expensive is that they're very spaced out. So maybe you would want to make the text smaller, or you want to add more space between the edges of the button and the text itself. It's my same thing here. I don't think that this text is very readable on this background, so I'm not sure I would do that this way. Here, I feel like in general, I feel like there's like not enough space. Everything feels like a little bit tight when you scroll down. Like I would add more space to it. And I do feel like the texts here are a little bit too close to the image. Like things need to be a little bit more spaced out. Now here, there's something a little bit confusing. I don't know if this is by purpose, but because usually you used to see the buttons below things, or either centered or just below things. When you put the button next to it, I actually thought this was some kind of a tag. So just because of the location of the button here, and the fact that, by the way, it does not have an hover effect, it kind of confused me into not understanding that this is actually a button. So you might want to take a look at that. Now here you have how to get to the train. So you have multiple things here with train info and airport connection. This, I just feel like it would be nicer if maybe you put an icon here and an icon there. And I'm not sure that these photos, which basically look the same, just different angles of the same, I don't know, maybe people who live there know the difference between the Metropolink and the Amtrak, but to me, it looks like the same train from different angles. So maybe, I don't know if it's necessary, maybe it's, I don't know. I don't know if you need this. Last thing is that here you want to talk about taking the train or surf report or local events, but because you use images, it looks like, just because the way that we surf the net, it looks like something like a blog post or something like that, or like additional content. This is something that I would feel like would work much better with icons, because you want them to remember what I talked about, the sequence of cognition. When we're trying to interpret what's going on, what this subject of this image is, it takes us a lot of mental space, a lot of mental effort. And if you would put an icon here of surf or a train or events, calendar or something like that, understanding what do you want to tell me here would make this, I feel, much easier to consume and understand what this is. So I think basically those are my comments for this website, and more reviews or more websites coming up soon.